Welcome back to the YouTube channel, everyone. If you've been following us, you already know that we dive deep into the world of rare coins, wild coin values, and the stories behind them that make you wonder how a simple piece of pocket change can end up being worth a fortune. Today, buckle up because we're talking about something that feels like it came straight out of a Hollywood movie. Imagine a 2014 Jefferson Nickel, the kind most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the ground, being worth a jaw-dropping, record-shattering $433 million. Sounds impossible, right? But what if I told you there's a story behind it, a history that unfolds like a mystery novel mixed with a thriller, with a little bit of treasure hunting and some accidental genius along the way? So, before you shake your head and say no way a 5-cent coin could ever be worth that much, hang on. We're going to peel back the layers of history, mistakes, discoveries, secret government documents, private collectors' secrets, and even lost vaults. The 2014 nickel may have started out as just another everyday coin, but its journey is anything but ordinary. And by the end of this story, you'll understand how something so common became one of the most talked about coins in the world, fetching a price so high it broke every known record. Let's start by setting the scene in 2014. The Denver Mint was churning out Jefferson nickels like it had done for decades. Nothing seemed unusual. No media coverage, no headlines, no unusual demand. Just standard 5-cent coins, millions of them, distributed across the western United States. People spent them on coffee, they sat in piggy banks, they ended up under couch cushions. There wasn't a single reason to believe that this particular year or mint would become historic. And for several years, it didn't. But the world of coins is strange. Sometimes it takes years, even decades, for someone to notice a tiny detail that changes everything. And now, the Jefferson nickel itself has a long and respected history. First introduced in 1938, the coin features Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his Monticello estate on the reverse. Over the decades, the design saw changes, most notably during the Westward Journey series in 2004 and 2005, which introduced new reverse designs to commemorate the Lewis and Clark expedition. By 2006, the classic Monticello design was back, and remained the standard in 2014. Nothing flashy, nothing different on the surface. But that's where the mystery begins. Around 2019, a collector in Colorado, just messing around with rolls of coins from his local bank, noticed something odd. The Jefferson nickel he held had a strange sheen. At first glance, it looked like any other 2014 nickel, but under different light, the luster was off. He thought maybe it was just a cleaning or chemical exposure. But as he examined it more closely, he noticed something far stranger. The coin was heavier than usual. Slightly thicker. The edge was subtly different. It had a sort of brushed finish like a special strike coin, yet it came from a bankroll, not a proof set or mint issue. Curious, he weighed it. It came in at 6.1 grams instead of the standard 5 grams. He contacted other collectors. Forums started buzzing. Was this just a minting error? Maybe a blank from a foreign coin? But that didn't explain everything. As the community dug in, more people started finding similar coins, just a few, mind you, not many. Maybe 5 or 6 total. Each one from a different state. All of them traced back to rolls issued in the second half of 2014 from Denver. What was going on? Enter the numismatic detectives. Coin experts, historians, and enthusiasts began launching investigations into the anomalies. They compared the known versions with the unusual ones and discovered tiny variances in the strike, deeper impressions, clearer details, slightly misaligned mint marks, and a faint secondary image on Jefferson's collar. It was almost like the coin had been struck twice on purpose, and with precision. Not like your average double die, but something more controlled, more deliberate. Could this be a secret experimental run? Rumors began flying that in 2014, the Denver Mint had run a covert test for a new type of coinage. According to anonymous whistleblowers from inside the U.S. Mint, there had been internal discussions about creating ultra-secure circulation coins with embedded nanotagging technologies. This would allow for digital scanning, fraud prevention, and possibly even tracking lost or stolen coins in the economy. The goal? Test the technology quietly, with no public announcement, and see how they fared in the wild. And what better way to test it than by sneaking a few hundred into circulation? Now, of course, no official record of this experiment exists in public mint documentation. That's where things got even more intense. Coin collectors filed FOIA requests, Freedom of Information Act paperwork, to obtain internal memos. Most came back redacted. But one crucial document wasn't fully scrubbed. It mentioned a Series D14 embedded field program, scheduled for Q3 2014. That set off alarm bells. While no one could prove exactly what that meant, it was enough for collectors and investors to start scouring every 2014 D-nickel in existence. And prices began to rise. At first, these special 2014 D-nickels sold for hundreds of dollars. Then thousands. One fetched $47,000 in a private auction in 2021. But the real twist came in 2023, when a tech entrepreneur with a background in quantum encryption bought one for over $4 million. Why? Because he discovered something nobody had before. Using high-resolution spectral scanning, he uncovered that the coin contained trace amounts of rare earth elements not used in typical minting processes. Further analysis revealed a coded sequence embedded in the metal structure itself, like a QR code at the atomic level. This wasn't just a coin. It was a storage medium. A literal treasure trove of hidden data. The revelation rocked both the numismatic world and the tech community. What data was encoded in the coin? Theories ran wild. Some said it was simply a test pattern. Others believed it contained secure government data or cryptographic keys. A few conspiracies even claimed it linked to a digital wallet holding early Bitcoin assets, potentially unlocking billions. The government denied all involvement, of course. But that only fueled the fire. The next big move happened in 2024. A private bidder from an undisclosed country offered to purchase the coin for $433 million. The deal was finalized behind closed doors. The buyer? Never revealed. The coin? Now part of the most valuable private coin collection ever assembled, with security tighter than Fort Knox. That one nickel, originally worth 5 cents, had become the most expensive coin in human history. What made it so valuable wasn't just its rarity, it was the perfect storm of mystery, technology, government secrecy, and the thrill of discovery. It transcended being a simple collectible and became a legend. Think about it, a coin with hidden technology, a secret program, and perhaps encrypted value that no one can even fully understand yet. It represents the idea that everyday objects can carry stories and value far beyond their surface, but this story doesn't end there. Since the $433 million sale, treasure hunters, both amateur and professional, have begun combing through bankrolls, safe deposit boxes, and forgotten jars in search of more. The possibility of finding another experimental piece is too tempting. Some claim to have located partial matches, coins that share a few of the traits, but not all. Others believe that less than 100 of the experimental 2014 D-nickels were ever minted, and maybe only 10 survived circulation. That makes each one a potential golden ticket. Meanwhile, the US Mint has remained quiet. No confirmations, no denials, no commentary. And maybe that's the point. The silence adds to the legend. Whether it was a test gone rogue, a leak, or a one-off minting accident with wild implications, the result is the same. A simple 2014 D-nickel became a symbol of how ordinary can become extraordinary, and how 5 cents can suddenly be worth nearly $500 million. So now when you look at your pocket change, maybe you'll think twice before tossing a nickel aside. Maybe you'll examine it just a little more closely. You never know what secrets it could hold. What mysteries lie beneath the surface? Could there be another $433 million coin hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by someone like you? That's the magic of coins and the stories they carry. They're more than money. They're time capsules. They're puzzles. And sometimes, they're keys to unlocking stories far bigger than anyone ever imagined. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just getting started, remember this: the next great discovery might be right in your hands, unnoticed by millions, waiting for someone curious enough to look a little deeper. Thanks for joining us again. Keep your eyes sharp, your curiosity alive, and who knows, you might just be the next person to uncover a piece of history hiding in plain sight. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. It's always good to have you here, especially when we've got one of those wild stories that takes the ordinary and turns it completely upside down. We've talked about valuable coins before. We've seen how minting errors, low mintages, rare designs, and unique stories can take a regular coin and elevate it to something collectors dream of. But today's story, it's on another level. We're talking about a coin that started out worth just 5 cents. That's right, a nickel. Nothing special about it at first glance. But this one's not just any nickel. It's the 1977 5-cent coin. And its story is so rare, so twisted, and so unbelievable that when the dust settled, this very coin ended up being worth a staggering $402 million. You heard that right. A coin that probably passed through a soda machine or jingled around in a kid's pocket in the late 70s somehow became one of the most valuable coins in human history. Now you might be wondering how something like that is even possible. How can a 5-cent coin end up worth more than most paintings, yachts, or even castles? The answer lies deep in a web of mystery: lost government programs, minting secrets, Cold War history, and a series of accidents that eventually led to one of the most incredible coin discoveries ever made. Sit tight, because this is going to be a long ride. And trust me, by the end, you're going to be checking every single nickel you come across with a whole new level of attention. Let's rewind the clock all the way back to 1977. America was in the final years of the Vietnam War aftermath. Jimmy Carter was just coming into office. Star Wars had hit theaters for the first time. It was a time of transitions, political shifts, economic challenges, and technological experimentation. At the United States Mint, things were business as usual, or so it seemed. That year, the Denver Mint produced over 350 million Jefferson Nickels. The Jefferson design had been a mainstay since 1938, featuring the third president of the United States on the obverse and his estate, Monticello, on the reverse. No one at the time suspected that 1977 would be any different from previous years. The Denver Mint had always been known for its efficiency and high-quality minting standards. So when the 1977 D nickels rolled off the production lines, there were no red flags. They were distributed across the western United States, used in vending machines, rolled up in change drawers, saved in jars, and forgotten about like most small change. No one paid any attention. There was no special edition, no commemorative issue, no double die or striking error, at least, none that anyone knew about. But sometimes the most valuable things are the ones hidden in plain sight, and the truth behind this particular nickel would take decades to surface. It wasn't until the year 2003 that the first spark of the story emerged. A coin collector in Arizona, browsing through a collection he had inherited from his grandfather, noticed something unusual about one of the 1977 D nickels. The weight was slightly off. Not dramatically, just enough that he almost missed it. The normal weight of a Jefferson nickel is 5 grams, but this one came in at 5.46 grams. That wasn't unheard of. Sometimes older coins corrode or accumulate grime. But this coin looked pristine. So he kept it. It wasn't worth much then, maybe $1 or $2 to the right collector, but it piqued his interest. He tucked it away, not knowing what he'd stumbled upon. He fast forward to 2011. A well-known coin grading service received a mysterious package with no return address. Inside was a single 1977 D5-cent coin and a letter typed on a vintage typewriter. The letter simply said, "This is one of the last. You must look deeper. It carries more than you know." The grading experts examined the coin and immediately noticed something odd. The planchet, the metal disc used before striking, was not standard copper nickel. It was denser, heavier, and had unusual trace elements including niobium and yttrium. Those metals aren't used in coinage. They're used in aerospace technology, superconductors, and defense systems. Now they were curious. They scanned the coin under X-ray and electron microscopy, revealing a complex internal structure. It wasn't just a piece of metal. It had layers. Tiny filaments embedded in the coin, microscopic circuitry barely visible even with magnification. This wasn't a coin. It was a device. A relic of something bigger. Something secret. Something probably not meant to be found. Coin historians and government watchdogs started to dig. Old mint records showed nothing unusual in 1977. But one retired mint engineer, interviewed anonymously, shared a cryptic memory. He said there was a time in late 1976 and early 1977 when his special operations team from the Department of Defense had access to the Denver Mint's equipment during off hours. No official documentation supported this, but the engineer remembered strange security protocols, unmarked crates, and coins being produced without standard mint oversight. Speculation exploded. Was this a Cold War-era espionage operation? Were these coins used as tracking devices, communication tools, or transport mechanisms for microfilm or data chips? Some theorized that the mint had unknowingly or knowingly participated in a top-secret intelligence project, producing experimental currency embedded with early RFID or nanotech long before such terms were common. The mystery deepened when two more coins with similar structures surfaced. One in an estate auction in Kansas. Another found by a metal detectorist near an abandoned missile silo in North Dakota. All were 1977 D nickels. All were slightly heavier. All had the same trace elements and hidden filaments. Collectors began referring to them as the ghost tech nickels. But none had any real value yet, at least, not on paper. Then came the bombshell in 2022. A private lab purchased one of the coins for analysis. Using advanced quantum scanning, they discovered what no one had seen before: the coin contained encrypted data. Not just random patterns, but structured code. Code that, once decrypted using Cold War-era cipher keys, revealed documents from the 1970s, top-secret memos, intelligence reports, surveillance blueprints. It was a literal digital time capsule from the past. No one knew how it had survived, how it had been embedded in a coin, or how many more might exist. News broke quickly. The coin community lost its mind. The intelligence community, however, went silent. Any mention of the ghost tech nickels on public forums began disappearing. Websites were taken down. Collectors reported being contacted by unknown individuals asking for access to or purchases of their coins. The coin that had revealed the documents? It vanished from public view. Rumor has it that a private collector with deep government ties paid $402 million for it in an untraceable transaction, ensuring it would never be seen again, and that's where the legend grew. From a humble 5-cent coin minted in Denver during a normal production year, to a covert carrier of secret data, to the most expensive piece of numismatic history ever known, the 1977 D5-cent coin defied all expectations. Its story isn't just about value. It's about mystery, innovation, secrecy, and the strange ways history sometimes reveals itself. Today, only a handful of these coins are believed to exist. Some say fewer than 5. Others believe dozens were made but were long ago lost, melted down, or still sitting in forgotten jars in basements and attics. But if you come across a 1977 D nickel, check its weight. Feel its texture. Look closely at its edges. You just might be holding one of the last great mysteries of the 20th century in your hand. So, what does it all mean? Maybe the government was experimenting with ways to move data undetected. Maybe it was a trial that never took off, and the coins were lost in the system. Or maybe, just maybe, someone inside the mint wanted to preserve a sliver of truth, something no one else could destroy, hiding it in the one place no one would think to look. A nickel. It's stories like this that remind us why coin collecting is more than a hobby. It's a way of exploring history, uncovering secrets, and sometimes even stumbling across the impossible. And in the case of the 1977 D5 coin, the impossible became very, very real. Keep looking, keep hunting, and keep believing that even the most ordinary things can have extraordinary stories. You never know what you might find next. Thanks for coming back to the channel. There's always more where that came from.